Hello, I'm Michael Voris.
And I'm Father Pablo, Catholic missionary priest. We really want you to watch every week The One True Faith. Had you left that one true faith, please come home. We're waiting for you because we love you.
Hello everyone, welcome once again to The One True Faith, the show that we say is the most disturbing hour of television because we talk about where you're going to spend eternity. And eternity is the most important thing. As a matter of fact, it's the only thing that matters in your life. No matter what calamities happen to us down here, and they are certainly tragic when they happen, the most important thing is that we get to heaven. It does not matter what happens to us down here as long as we get to heaven. And one of the ways people get to heaven is by helping each other get to heaven. Bishop Fulton Sheen used to say, if you want to know a sure way to get to heaven, take someone's hand and help lead them there. And Bishop Sheen was an extremely holy man, and he knew exactly what he was talking about. When you take that notion of one or two people helping and you expand it to a culture, and you look at the idea of a culture, faith and religion and belief in God and living moral lives, and living that sort of way needs support from a culture, from our cultural institutions, from our universities, from families, from colleges, from the courts, from the media. And that's what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about the media. And I have some personal experience in this area because I was a television news reporter, anchor, and producer, and I guess in one way sort of still am, working in the secular media for about 15 years. And not to brag, but I won a number of awards. I was very good at my job. I knew what the media entailed. I knew how to do a story and how to tell a story. And I was in television news. I was in a number of markets. I have my credentials. I cut my teeth on this business and stayed in it for 15 years. So I know about the media. And let me tell you that when you hear, and this may sound like a tired old rant, but I'm going to give it a new life, so it'll be a new old rant. And when you hear about the liberal media, you haven't heard most of it. I'm going to share some stories of events that happened in newsrooms while I was in the newsrooms, and I was a personal witness to those things. But what does all this have to do with the Catholic faith? Well, at first, it may seem like it doesn't have very much to do with it, but you'll see as we build the story here, you'll see why it's very important. So I want to deconstruct how television news, local television news and national television news works. I was at CBS. My very first job was in 1983 at CBS News on Sunday, October 23rd, when the Marine compound was blown up by a car bomb in Beirut. I learned television news at CBS News in New York. I went out after that for about a year and a half. After about a year and a half in New York, I went out to affiliates where I was an anchor, a reporter. I hung out with people in the business. I know people in the business. I still know people in the business at network programs. I worked in local newscasts here in Detroit and other markets. I know this business, and I just say that to say that this isn't something I've read. I'm not repeating what somebody else has told me. These are things that I have seen and heard with my own eyes and ears during a 15-year career in secular news. Let me tell you how a local television newscast is programmed when you sit home and watch the 5 o'clock news or the 6 o'clock news. If you have an hour-long newscast, and you say, okay, that's 60 minutes. That's an opportunity to hear for an hour everything that happened in the market. No, it's not. It's not even close to an hour. Let me tell you why. Every producer who has a newscast comes in and sits down at their desk 5, 6, 7 hours before a newscast begins, and the first thing they do is they open up the commercial log, which is provided to them by the sales department. They have 60 minutes, and they add up the length of all the commercials. And when they get done with that 60 minutes, guess what? After you've run all those commercials and you've spent time going into them and coming out of them, a couple of seconds on each end, you've used up somewhere in the neighborhood of 14 to 15 minutes of your 60. So now you've only got 45 minutes to hear about the news of the day from your city, your surrounding area. Now subtract weather and subtract the number of times they keep going back and forth to tell you about the weather. Do you want to know why you hear so much about the weather in a newscast? Because it's the thing that every time they do a poll and they do a market focus group, that's what people want to hear about. So they send them out to go do weather stories. You want to know why every single year, as soon as the first snowflake hits the ground, I'll tell you what the stories will be. You're going to go to Home Depot and see how everyone's bought a snow shovel. You're going to see how everybody has gone out and bought 7,000 pounds of salt to melt the ice. They're going to go do a story on a doctor who's going to tell you why you should be very careful shoveling snow because you're going to have a heart attack or you're going to throw out your back if you don't hold the shovel right. It's idiocy. Idiocy. And we'll get to it in a why. And anybody who's at home watching this who works in news, I can guarantee you they will be going, yep. Oh yeah, exactly. It's idiocy. You subtract weather. You subtract the talk about weather. See all the anchors sitting there at the news desks? Well, Jennifer, how was the weather today? Well, I thought it was very nice. Oh, so it was beautiful. Oh, such a beautiful day. I can't believe the amount of snow. Oh, the rain is, it messed up my boots. And you've got a 60-minute hole to tell people, you've got a 60-minute hole that no other profession in this country is protected by the United States Constitution except that profession. That is not sacred, but a near sacred trust. Why do we do that? Why did the Founding Fathers build that right? That, policemen don't have the same rights executing their job that journalists have. The President of the United States doesn't have the constitutional protections and privileges that an average newspaper writer has. Because the Founding Fathers said that you have to make sure that freedom of the press is enshrined, that it is an ensured right because it is the check on things going wrong in the culture. And you cannot stifle the truth. You have to give them the ability to say what's really going on. So here's a sacred trust, because it's related to the truth, it is sacred. Here's a sacred trust that was given to this and only this profession, only this industry. In all of the jobs in America, it's the only one constitutionally protected. And they dither it away, talking about snow, talking about, let's go down to the Humane Society and show you the cute little puppy that's for sale this week. Isn't it wonderful? Is it a wonder why people have turned this garbage off and continue to turn it off in droves? That's not a reason that I'm not in that business anymore, because it became a business for idiots. It became a business for idiots because it is nothing except making money and appealing to the lowest common denominator. That's what that industry has become. And that's why there is this battle for a shrinking pie. You look at those Nielsen ratings year after year after year. When Walter Cronkite, which many of you will remember, was the star of evening newscasts 25, 30 years ago, close to 1/3, 1/2 of American homes tuned in to nightly newscasts on the networks. Today, that number is less than 25%. Tens of millions of people have turned that drivel off. Thank God they've turned that drivel off. But for those who still watch it, and it's not just TV news, there's newspapers, there's the weekly and monthly publications. Let's talk about how do those pages that start off blank, how do those newscast scripts on the nightly news that start off with nothing on them how does information get on there? Well, it gets on by a process of, people going out doing stories and all that. But the bigger question is, who's deciding and what are they making their decisions based on? And this is the core of the problem. This is the core of the problem. And I will say this very clearly right now, and I will back this up against anybody in this industry, and I hope somebody out there watching is in the television or the communications industries, who's vested with a trust to tell people really what's going on. I will tell you right now that the secular media in the United States has been hijacked by hell in order to distort people's understandings of the truth. I worked in it. I saw it. Let me give you a couple of examples of when I was in it. I wrote some down here. When I was an anchor in Duluth, Minnesota, back in the, I guess, mid-'80s or so, there was a story that I was reading. I remember I was the anchor. Hi, good evening, folks. I was the anchor. I'm sitting there reading this story, and the story was that there was a lawsuit had made it to the Minnesota Supreme Court. The basis of the lawsuit, or the case, the facts around the lawsuit, was that a lady who was pregnant 7 or 8 months was driving through an intersection, and she was obeying the traffic laws, and somebody, I don't remember the circumstances, but a guy plowed into her and killed her unborn child. The accident resulted in the death of her unborn child. I was reading the story, and it was just a 20-second story just to say, here's the latest development in the case. It's going to the Minnesota Supreme Court, and the lady's unborn baby was killed. I think there was one more story, and then we went to a commercial break. One of the reporters in the newsroom bashed the door open to the studio and came in and through what looked to me to be almost a fit of pure possession, he came up to the anchor desk and pounded with his fist on that desk. How dare you call that a baby? How dare you try to put your moral views? It's a fetus, damn it! And stormed out. I was so blown away. I was like, whoa! Now, I was 25, I think it was, 24, 25 at the time. I don't remember. But I can tell you that was the tip of the iceberg when the issue came up about abortion in television news, in my experience. Let me fast forward to 1992. 1989. It was 1992. Sorry, 1992. Bill Clinton had just won the presidency, and my news director came up to me and jammed here in Detroit and jammed me in my chest and said, well, so much for you and your anti-abortion views now, and walked out of the room. About a year later, there was a very important abortion case that had made it to the U.S. Supreme Court, and it was the first opportunity since Roe versus Wade that the justices on the court, and there's an ironic word, isn't it, justices, when it comes to abortion in the United States. The justices on the Supreme Court had their first opportunity since Roe versus Wade to go back and revisit the topic of, should abortion actually be legal? Should there be a constitutional right to abortion? And because of that particular fact, the whole news media was swirling around this. Everybody wanted to know what was going on. It was a big story. It's 93 or 94, I think. The date escapes me a little bit. It may have been as early as 91. I can't remember exactly, but the early 90s. And because everything was being carried live, the justices generally don't. Sometimes they read their opinions from the bench. Other times they just publish them and hand them out through the media room. This day they just published them and made millions of Xeroxes and handed them out to all the reporters. So what you watched on TV live was all these reporters running down the steps of the U.S. Supreme Court building, getting their microphones and their earpieces in, and flipping through the paper, trying to find exactly what was going on and like what the ruling was. Well, many of them are very savvy legal reporters. They knew exactly in this 75-page opinion where to go to find out, would abortion stay legal or would it not? That was the question. So they flipped it over, and what the CBS reporter, we were in a CBS newsroom, the CBS reporter read on the air, blah, 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 and from the reading of this would maintain that abortion will remain legal in the United States by a vote of 5-4. That entire newsroom I was in erupted as though their favorite team had just won the national championship. I was the only person in that newsroom that I was blown away by the intense hatred of the pro-life movement in secular news. Don't let anybody tell you anything about that the secular media is not biased. The secular media is absolutely biased. Those are my 3 examples I wanted to share with you because we don't have a lot of time to go into every one of them. But I can tell you, standing in hallways, hearing conversations going on, hearing attitudes about things. And it's not just abortion. Abortion is sort of the big linchpin thing. It's something you can still revolve stories around. But, you go into this is not just television news. This is the media. Turn on your television sets. And what's one of the first or second rated show in America today? About 3 adulterous women? Desperate Housewives? That filth is portrayed and pumped into your living rooms? Let me tell you, if I was Satan, he must have done backflips when somebody invented television. He must have done backflips. Now we had a tool to get into people's minds just sitting in front of one camera, and he could pollute hundreds of millions of minds, and does. And I'm sure his thinking wasn't very far off when the internet came around. What's the number one commodity sold on the internet? Pornography. There isn't even a close second. There's not even a close second. The media, and when I say media, I mean it all. I mean it all. Could you imagine if somebody published a book called the Moses Code, and that book insisted that Moses was a pedophile? Could you imagine the uproar? The Anti-Defamation League would be staging protests all over the place. They'd be howling and carrying on. The network news would be running live with it left and right. They'd call the author of that book a bigot, a racist, an anti-Semite. They'd burn his house down. They'd write editorials from the New York Times to the Los Angeles Times damning everything he said. Oh, but somebody writes a book and alleges that the Son of God is a liar and an adulterer and impregnated Mary Magdalene. God forgive me for even saying it, but that's what the book says. Oh, and all of a sudden it's a work of art. It's freedom of expression. You know the culture you're in. If you're Catholic or you're Christian, you care about your culture, you better pay attention to what's going on in the media. Do not sit there like these blind sponges soaking this stuff up like it's the truth. I will tell you, from having written stories, and you want to make a story sound important, stick the words in front of it. Many people claim. Listen for those things in newscasts or when you're reading a paper. Many people claim, or what's the other one? Some critics insist. That is liberal, secular media cover language for me, the reporter. That's what that means. That is exactly what that means. It means I don't like this Christian position. I don't like this thing about God, so I'm just going to take the word I have a problem with it and stick in many people claim. Another technique will be it's not what you say, it's what you don't say. And I'm getting a wrap-up signal here, but I want to say this real quickly. I'll give you an example right now and we'll go to a break. When you hear something, it's what you don't hear. The more subtle attacks on your intellect are what you don't hear, and I'll give you an example. Here's a story. Police shot and killed a man tonight running from a house who earlier had been seen by eyewitnesses breaking into that house. Next story. Well, so you'd think, okay, this guy was a thief or a robber. Maybe he was in there going to kill somebody, whatever, and he ran and he wouldn't stop, and the police shot him. Okay, that seems normal. Well, that's what I said. Now listen to what I didn't say. The man who broke into the house was actually the owner of the house. And his wife, who'd been in a car accident earlier that night, had his spare keys. When he got called at work, he left work, realized his wife had the keys, and broke into the house to get them. When he heard a siren, he thought it was an ambulance coming for his wife, and he ran out the door. See how the story changes because of what I did not tell you the first time. It is not what you hear, it is what you don't hear. The liberal media, the secular media, detests God and the truth. And they distort it, the truth, and they blaspheme God every opportunity they get. And anybody who's in this business, who had an honest, who looked at this honestly, would say, well, you know what, I may not agree with him, but he sure makes sense on a number of those things. We're going to take a commercial. When we come back, we're going to have Father Pablo Straub here to sit here and talk about the media, and he should know because he's in it also. We'll be right back right after this.
Most Catholics today know very little about their faith. That's why St. Michael's Media has produced this 8-DVD set of classes about the faith called St. Michael's Basic Training. Each DVD is a 2-hour class on apologetics taught by Michael Voris, explaining what the Church teaches, why the Church teaches it, and how to defend it.
I was more confident in my my faith because of these classes.
I look forward to actually hearing Mike's explanation each week because he's very eloquent.
He points out specific words and the meanings behind them.
The 16 hours of apologetics classes are available for just $75 by calling 866-738-1207 or logging on to CatholicBasicTraining.com. Topics are Scripture, Eucharist, the Virgin Mary, Papacy, End Times, Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons, New Age Movement, Morality.
I just love it because what it does is it leads us to the truth, and the truth is what will set us free.
My faith has grown so much in the last 3 months.
Order your apologetic set by calling 866-738-1207 or logging on to CatholicBasicTraining.com.
Abortion is at the heart of the battle for the soul of America. For the past 40 years, Americans have been lied to about abortion by politicians and the media. Now their conspiracy of lies and propaganda is exposed in this hour-long, no-holds-barred video examining the truth about abortion. Learn how the news media purposely withhold all the facts about abortion. See for yourself how Hollywood and TV twist people's minds to accept abortion, and learn the dollars and cents truth that abortion is destroying the nation's economy. It's all in this hour-long DVD special, The Cost of Abortion. For just $20, you'll receive this gripping DVD special plus an additional data CD chocked full of information, articles, links, and analysis of this horrible truth. That's the DVD and CD for only $20 and shipping and handling. Call 866-738-1207 or log on to thecostofabortion.com. Learn the truth about the cost of abortion.
To learn more about what the Catholic Church teaches about the Eucharist, please go to therealpresence.org.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the One True Faith. We are very honored here tonight to have Father Pablo Straub, a world-famous Redemptorist preacher who I'm sure is responsible for the conversion of many people. Father, it's a blessing to have you here. I just want to thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to be here.
It's especially fitting that you should be here. I mean, you do an awful lot of television evangelism, or you do evangelism that gets on TV. And you were sitting here in the audience listening to the first part of this, and you and I were talking before the show, and the state of the media with relationship to helping spread the word of God, or for goodness sakes, just being fair about it. It's an abysmal state, isn't it?
It is. It's a terrible state. We're not allowed to be indifferent about this. We are not allowed to be indifferent about this, to assume a posture of, I can't do anything about that. Do you love the good Pope John Paul? You know what he said in 2002? I think it was World Communications Day. He said, the new media is a new challenge for the church, which means you and me. The new media is a new challenge for the church, and the church has always met new challenges and seen in them an opportunity to carry out the commission she has from her bridegroom, Jesus Christ. Go into the whole world. Preach the gospel to every creature. When you do service to the truth, I'm going to say it again, when you do service to the truth, you are doing service to the one who said, I am the truth. When you are indifferent to the truth, when truth and falsehood just make no difference to you, as though you can be comfy, cozy, well, then you're indifferent to Jesus Christ. Now, the Holy Father said that day, Jesus is the Savior, and so, of course, He must also be the Savior of cyberspace. And if there's no room in cyberspace for truth, then there's no room in cyberspace for Christ. And if in cyberspace there is no room for Christ, then a few people who are incredibly rich already are going to get barrels and barrels and barrels richer, and it makes no difference at all to them to destroy people, to destroy the little ones. And they can't think of themselves as doing anything wrong because they have no concept of truth. In the culture of death, and am I being pessimistic if I say to you that the culture of death is more or less in control of the media? The culture of death, in control of the media, in the culture of death, truth herself, I call her a she because in all the languages that I speak, Latin, Spanish, the truth is a lady. You would never say in Spanish, for instance, el verdad. You could only say la verdad, so I do think of her as a lady. In the culture of death, truth is quite clearly, though implicitly, defined as anything that forwards your agenda. Anything that forwards your agenda. You can take the biggest possible imaginable lie and present it as factual, present it as the truth, and of course it is, if it forwards your agenda, no matter how evil that agenda is. And so to just say, well, there's nothing I can do, would be a historical cop-out. If there's no room in cyberspace for the truth, there's no room for Christ. And where there is no room for Christ, there's no room for salvation. That's why, without our saying yet just what we must do, we certainly must do something.
Absolutely, Father. We must. First of all, thank you for the words of encouragement. That's what we need to hear. And you know, one of the things that we've said on this show 100 times, well, 17 times, is hopefully 100 times, right? Hopefully 100 times, is that, you know, if you want to love God, if you want to love God through your faith, through the faith that He established, you have to know it. And when we're out at parties at people's houses, at dinner and cocktail parties and barbecues and any other social gatherings we're at, just ask yourself, how many times does the topic come up where people are just, they make a polite slam against the church? How many times have you heard this? It's countless. It's countless. I hang around with people for the most part who are Catholic, and I hear it. I turn on my news. I hear it. There was a lady who used to, a medical reporter on one station I used to work at, and she did a story, a medical report, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I think it was, or whatever, some regularly scheduled time during the week. Do you know that once a week, one of those reports was dedicated to the newest breakthrough in artificial birth control? Just right there on TV, as though there's not even a moral question involved there. And a topic like that comes up, artificial birth control, and people will sit there, you know, mixing their martinis, right?
Yes.
So they're mixing their martinis and saying, oh, yeah, I had to run out to the store and pick up a new batch of pills, you know, for my wife and I tonight. Yeah, I had to pick up, and you sit there and say nothing. Well, I don't say I'm the only person in the room. I shouldn't say anything. You know what? 2,000 years ago, they'd have thrown you to a lion. Today, what happens? They take your martini away. Stand up and say something. Because you're ultimately, when you're defending your faith, you're defending the truth. And as Father said, when you're defending the truth, you're defending Jesus Himself. And if you won't defend Jesus, well, what are you even bothering going to church for? Courage, faith, love God, and we've got to fight back.
Just want to tell a quick story of one lady who did not consent to just listening to junk. The lady's name was Jana. She's rather recent. She's 20th century. She is recent enough to have driven a car, perhaps a small station wagon, a family station wagon, where you tell the kids in the back to stop fighting. And this lady's canonized. She had 3 babies, and he was a 4th baby. And she was a doctor. And the doctors told her, you have 3 children already, and either you or the fetus, you call it anything but a baby, though it is a baby. I am the same me who in the first instant of my human existence, I was a fertilized ovum. And it was me, the same me. I've just grown a little and got baptized and received Jesus. It's the same me. Anyway, they told her, you have 3 children already. Why don't you stay alive for those children? We'll take the fetus. She said, you don't take me, or take, which means kill, my baby. You do everything you can for my baby. You do everything you can for me. I'm a doctor. You all took the same Hippocratic oath that I took. And so they had to do what she said, and she died. And her 4th child, her brand new baby boy, was there when John Paul canonized his mom, Santa Jana. She's alive, and we know where she is. You can't judge things by the norms of this world. You have to judge things. You're really better. How are you going to bring up a child without making judgments all day long? Please don't call yourself judgmental, because you come to moral judgments about the rightness and the wrongness of human actions. You do it all day anyway. You have to. And when God said just before making us, let us make man in our image, let us make human beings in our image, likeness is something else, that's sanctifying grace. But let's stop at the word image. When God said, let us make human beings, let us make man, which is a very inclusive term, let us make man in our image. What makes us be the image of God is that the animals can't make judgments, have nothing to make judgments with. When did you ever catch a little puppy dog saying to another puppy dog, now you tell me the truth? You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. So, do exercise judgment. And when you do, stop calling yourself judgmental. We have to defend the truth the way Saint Jana did. Doesn't it sound beautiful? Saint Jana. I've seen pictures of her with the 3rd baby. She's such a nice Catholic lady. Make judgments. And then struggle for the truth to the point where you will lay down your life.
We do that a lot here, Father. Not laying down our lives.
They might come.
Yeah, well, don't say that. Not yet. We need to get national first. We have a sword up here that would actually be quite an honor for us if you actually held this. This is a sword. Our media here is St. Michael's Media. That's the production company here. And we've dedicated ourselves to St. Michael because we realize that we are in a moral or a immortal combat.
I just want to make sure it had two edges because the Word of God is a two-edged sword.
Yeah, it's it is truly such a blessing for us, Father, for you to be here and say, as I stand up here and say this, and people don't listen to me, they'll listen to you.
So we really must do something. I ask myself, face to face with the reality of cyberspace, what does God want me to do? I just ask myself that question. Like I've been asking myself that question all day today. What does God want me to do? EWTN? St. Michael's? What does God want me to do? And I'm asking you to ask yourself that very same question. What does God want you to do? So that at least where you are, truth will be defended. Because in defending the truth, you will be placing before people the figure, the body, the soul, the divinity of the Son of Mary, who is God the Son, who became man, precisely in order to be able to bleed to death for our salvation. I beg of you, ask yourself the question, what am I to do? Beg of God, please, my dear Lord, tell me, what do you want me to do? And when He lets you know, go out and do it. It may be to give His message to the people through Catholic radio or through secular radio. It may be this very concrete medium we have right here, St. Michael's, which is a beautiful effort to evangelize Detroit, this historic Christian city, to evangelize both sides of the Detroit River and much beyond, because we're getting into some Gulf states, right on the water of the Gulf. We're getting to the shores of the Atlantic, up Boston way. What does God want you to do? What does God want me to do? If He tells me He wants me to speak to you with whatever frequency He says, by means of St. Michael's, I'm going to do it. Why? Because He wants me to. And what else matters?
What else does matter, Father? Nothing, right?
What else matters? Nothing.
Nothing. If there's the gospel was a couple of weeks ago at Mass. If what does it profit you to gain the whole world, lose your soul? Yeah. There's so much stuff to do. So many Catholics don't know the faith. So many people who aren't Catholic don't.
What Jesus said: go into the whole world. Go into the whole world. You're not being asked to go to the Eskimos in Alaska. Maybe you are. If you are, just go. But there are other places where we know you must go. You must love your spouse, love your children, truly love them, which means sincerely desire what is good for them, what is eternally good for them. We know that if you live in the Detroit metropolitan area, you are to evangelize in Detroit. Now, in that sense, Jesus' word to His apostles is also His word to you. Go into the whole world and preach the gospel to every creature. Now, for you, that may not mean the Amazon jungle. For others it does. But for you it does mean where you are, and wherever God may want to send you. Now, what also applies to you is what St. Paul said. People used to think that what St. Paul said, I'm going to tell you what it was he said right now, but this thing that St. Paul said, people used to think it was for priests only and bishops. And here it is. Paul said, "Woe to me if I do not announce the gospel." The Holy Catholic Church in the Second Vatican Council, in a document on the apostle of the lay folk, said that phrase of St. Paul, "Woe to me if I do not evangelize," is incumbent upon every lay person. You receive your apostolic vocation at your baptism. You receive it from Jesus Christ directly. So stop waiting for marching orders. Go out and do it. Woe to me if I do not announce the gospel. Woe to you if you do not announce the gospel. That doesn't mean you have to buy an orange box which you can't stand on because the wooden wire is too thin, but you fix it up on the inside with a few studs here and there so you can stand on a corner and preach. No, some people are called upon to stand on a box on a corner and preach. I'm not laughing at that call. I don't see that it is your call. But without the box on the corner, you are to announce the gospel of Jesus Christ. Lady, if you're having your hair done and the lady next to you is talking abortion, speak to the lady. Save her baby. At least do your very best to save her baby. Offer to be the godmother. Because woe to you if you do not announce the gospel. Here God has called you this evening and many times before, because there's only about, I think, 4 or 5 new folks here. Welcome. Most of you here for the perhaps 5th, perhaps 10th time. Woe to you if you do not evangelize. Do you love Jesus? Fight for the truth. Do what you can to announce the truth. Work in any way that God enables you in the announcing of the truth. Because you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
Thank you, Father.
People fight over it. Many have died for it. It's the most controversial book in history, but almost no one knows where the Bible came from. If you call 866-738-1207 right now, or log on to BiblePack.com, you can order a fabulous DVD collection that will give you the answer. In Where Did the Bible Come From, you'll receive 2 DVD presentations, Compiling Sacred Scripture and Interpreting Sacred Scripture. This collection is available right now for just $39.95 by calling 866-738-1207 or logging on to BiblePack.com. Call now and receive a full-color timeline highlighting the development of the Bible. You'll also receive a thought-provoking bonus DVD entitled Why Bible History Matters. And we'll also send you this 112-page book, Where Did the Bible Come From? Again, that's the double DVDs, the bonus DVD, the timeline, and the book, all for the very low price of just $39.95. Call now. Staff is standing by.
If you enjoy watching The One True Faith, you'll be pleased to know that you can purchase all 4 seasons of The One True Faith on audio-only CD for only $39.95 per season, plus shipping and handling. Each season consists of over 9 hours of talks by Michael Voris and covers such topics as the basic teachings of the Catholic Church, the relationship of Catholicism to other Christian religions, and the Eucharist. You can listen to them on your stereo or in your car. Each season of 13 episodes of The One True Faith is the same low price of $39.95. Call 866-738-1207 to order, or visit theonetruefaith.tv to order online.
Hello everyone, welcome back to The One True Faith. We've been talking about the role of the church and the media in modern culture, a modern culture that decidedly seems destined to forsake Christ and His truth, and how the media has helped support that, and what we can do to actually reverse that trend. And Father Pablo Straub is our guest this evening on the show, and we are very honored to have you here, Father.
It's a pleasure, Mike.
We have some questions now. This is the usual time of the show. We take questions from our studio audience, so we'll have the first question come up, please. Sir, what's your name and where are you from?
I'm Frank from Dearborn Heights.
Hi, Frank.
My question is this culture of deception uniform throughout the media? Is it worse nationally? Is it worse in local markets? And maybe are there any places of value left in the media somewhere?
You want to take that one, Paul?
The culture of death is pervasive. It's not in every individual town flourishing. There are towns that have not yet been swallowed up. But the culture of death is rampant. It's characterized by the redefining of truth as though there's nothing objective outside of me, which is the truth. But the truth is whatever I make it, whatever I want it to be. The culture of death is characterized by despising human life. Let us say it frankly. The culture of death is characterized by the redefining of love in terms of personal pleasure, no matter how base or destructive. It's all over the place. It's similar. It does have those lines of similarity wherever it exists. It does threaten to swallow up and destroy all true culture. It is going to be defeated. And what's going to take its place is the civilization of love. And the Holy Catholic Church is called Holy Mother Church, because she not only mothers individuals in the grace of God, but she mothers, she bears, brings forth in the world new civilizations, and she shall engender in the world a civilization of love. What we must do is not stand around watching it happen. We have to be the engenderers. We have to be the ones that make it happen. We have to be the bearers of the civilization of love.
And I can tell you, Frank, in answer to your question, in newsrooms, while it's pervasive, and it is the destruction of truth, while it's pervasive, it is not evenly spread out. Like most things. Even cancer doesn't eat up an entire organ necessarily. Parts of an organ can be, horribly infected, and other parts are all right. So it is truth is the victim here, and I think people need to realize that. But there are some newsrooms, and this is all people. It's funny when you see people, you see these quotes, you say, well, the New York Times says. No, the New York Times doesn't have a mouth. It's a piece of paper. There's somebody behind the New York Times, behind the Washington Post, behind ABC News, behind all the great secular media conglomerates. And they are people. And I can't judge their intentions. I don't know if they are deliberately hostile to the truth of the gospel, or if they are just ignorant of it. But I can tell you the culture in newsrooms disregards Christ. It just does. You just have to listen you have to watch and listen very carefully. What you're being given is somebody's version of the truth. Just like when you get an exit poll Or, how many times, 78% of Catholics think blah. Who cares? I don't care if 99.9% of Catholics think blah. What does the Pope think? What do the Gospels think? That's what you should care about if you're a Catholic and you're somebody looking for the truth.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Hi, what's your name? Where are you from?
Hi, I'm Amy. I'm from Metro Detroit.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, Father and Mike. Hello. My question is for Mike. You talked on working for 15 years, working for the secular media. Was there, in some of your discuss and some of your reactions, was there a specific turning point or experience that you had that made you decide to leave?
The last job I was actually doing in a newsroom, I had a station, the hierarchy of a TV station. News is just one department in the big TV station company. There's news department, sales department, promo department. There's different departments in a TV station, but they're all supervised by a general manager and then a station manager. I had a station manager tell me to lie in a story and present the facts in such a way that it would make the story seem a lot more sexy than it actually was. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that because that will cause a lawsuit, and I know you'll leave me out to dry when we get sued. And you'll say you never said it or anything else, so I'm not doing it. And so I said, if you want to, turn the story over to somebody else. I have all the tapes. I have everything here. And someone else can do it, but I'm not going to do it. And that pretty much soured the relationship. And and quite frankly, it wasn't such a brave act, folks, because I had already had it up to here a couple years before that. But just the tenor. It's the tenor of the place is a very hard place to be. It's a place that doesn't care about truth. It takes a poll. It takes a poll. They do a ratings and they say, hey, I want to, people want to hear about. You want to know why you see so many live shots? How many of you have seen? I love going off on this. How many of you have actually seen a live shot at nighttime where the reporter is standing there at the scene of something that's happened, and behind them is pitch black? But they put that little live. They write the word live. They call it a super or a font or a bug. They write the word live, and whatever it is they're talking about happened hours earlier. But they're standing there live. You know why? Because they do focus groups. And in these focus groups, they interview people and they say, what do you like to see on TV? Well, the people say, well, I like the weather. I don't really care about sport. Believe it or not, people don't really care about sports on news. That's why it's always towards the end. No, for the most part, don't care about sports. They care about weather, and they like to see live because when they're clicking through and they see live, they go, oh, this must be important. Oh, 9 hours ago on this very site you can't see behind me, there was a car accident, and it was vicious, and 9 people died in the accident. That's very horrible. Now let's go to tape that we shot 12 hours ago. But they put you there. It's programmed to engineer your mind. And when you're in it, behind the scenes, and you constantly see this manipulation, this playing fast and loose with the facts, it's disgusting. It really is. So I pretty much had it after a couple of those episodes I mentioned earlier where, my news director comes up to me and goes like that. Can you imagine what would have happened to that news director if the roles would have been reversed? If he was a pro-life news director and I was pro-abortion, and he came up and said, so much for you. Oh, the ACLU would have burned the place down. But it's open season on anybody who believes in God, truly believes in God in the news media.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for your question. Be right back right after
this. The Eucharist is the source and summit of the Catholic faith. Learn more about all aspects of the Eucharist in this exciting and informative series of talks given by Michael Voris. The One True Faith, The Eucharistic Discourses, is a series of 13 talks about the real presence of Jesus Christ in the Eucharist. Enhance your understanding and love for the most wonderful gift Jesus Christ left for us, his own flesh and blood. Purchase the full set of the Eucharistic Discourses on DVD for $149.99 plus shipping and handling, or buy the audio-only CD versions for only $39.95. Call 866-738-1207 to order, or visit theonetruefaith.tv to order online. Learn how you and your family can increase your knowledge and love for Jesus Christ in the Holy Eucharist. Call 866-738-1207 to order.
St. Michael's Media, the producers of The One True Faith, is dependent on your tax-deductible charitable donations. It costs $30,000 a month to keep our programming on the air. That's why we're asking for your help. For a $25 donation, we'll gladly send you 2 never-before-broadcast episodes of The One True Faith, St. Michael and the Angels, and The Church, the same yesterday, today, and forever. All you have to do is call 866-738-1207 or log on to theonetruefaith.tv. Well, we're about time to wrap up here right now, but Father, I want to tell you thank you very much for being on. Do you have any parting words of wisdom for us here? And you can use the sword here if you want.
I'll use this sword. Are you baptized? Well, then don't wait for marching orders. Just go do it. And what's the it? The defense of the truth, the teaching of the truth, the living of the truth, the loving of the truth. Do you think you have to wait for somebody to give you orders to bring Christ into your family, into your surroundings? Don't wait for any further marching orders. Jesus, when he baptized you, made you be an apostle. And the only baptized people who are not apostles is not for lack of an apostolic calling, but for lack of the will on their own part to be apostles. So, don't wait for marching orders. Go do it. God love you.
And we'll see you next week right here on The One True Faith. Thank you, Father. God bless.
Read a lot of fun.
An audio-only version of today's episode is available on CD for just $5. Just call us at 866-738-1207. And if you're looking for quick information on Catholic teaching, we urge you to go to our homepage, catholictelevision.org, and click on the Resources button. It's a great site to help you get started understanding more about Catholic teaching. How well do you think you know the Catholic faith? St. Michael's Media has the perfect opportunity for you to find out. Just log on to theonetruefaith.tv and click on the quiz button to take our weekly Catholic quiz. It's a fun chance to get to know how much you think you know about the Catholic Church. Each week we'll have a different quiz of 5 questions, so spread the word, tell your friends about it, and have them take the quiz. And here's some good news. Whoever logs on and takes the test gets a free gift. It doesn't even matter if you have the questions right or wrong. Everyone gets a free gift. It's a CD called 4 Reasons to Be a Catholic Christian. It's yours completely free for just taking the quiz. Remember, every week we'll be posting 5 new questions. All you have to do is log on to theonetruefaith.tv and click on the quiz button. The questions are all multiple choice, so it won't be that hard. But look out for the occasional trick question. So log on to theonetruefaith.tv, take the weekly Catholic quiz, and get the free CD.